Hey everyone, it is the Tuesday evening weather for Weather Geeks for January the 26th, 2021. Well, today went pretty much as expected. We had a little glaze of ice in some spots first thing this morning, and then just kind of a murky afternoon with some light rain and drizzle. But hey, we did get above freezing, which is more than we can say for the next few days. Before we focus on today's weather and what's going to happen into the future, let's look back. Every year around January 26th, I like to look back at the blizzard of 1978. A lot of meteorologists of a certain age were inspired to become meteorologists by this storm. Now, I was born a few weeks after the blizzard of 1978. I always grew up thinking I was born like right around when the blizzard was occurring, from the stories that my relatives told, but actually I was born later in February, a few weeks after the blizzard of 78. But it was on today's date, back in 1978, that we were in the thick of it, with quickly falling temperatures. And while we did have snow, of course, here locally, we did not have as much in northeast Ohio and western PA as they had off to our west. Toledo, Dayton, Lima, Fort Wayne, Grand Rapids, Michigan, these places just got walloped with a ton of snow. While the actual amounts were a little more modest here, this storm was historic for many reasons, but primarily because of the wind it generated, because this was a bomb cyclone. In other words, the pressure just dropped like a rock. In fact, the lowest pressure on record here in Youngstown, and similar things can be said for the pressure records out in the Cleveland area as well. The pressure of 961 millibars, or 28.39 inches of mercury, that's comparable to a Category 3 hurricane. And so even though we had between about 2 and 6 or 7 inches worth of snow officially, pretty modest, all that snow, of course, blew around, and the drifting was tremendous, the power outages were tremendous, and a lot of people who were around at this point in 1978 have a lot of stories from this storm. Thanks to everyone who's been commenting, especially on my Facebook page from my posts about the blizzard of 78 today. A lot of people doing some remembering. But it is worth remembering that while, again, we did have snow and a lot of problems with the blizzard of 78, the actual amounts were pretty modest compared to some of our other kind of benchmark winter storms in our area. November of 1950, for example, we talked about this a few months ago during the 70th anniversary of this storm. We had 2 feet worth of snow in our area from that. Even the storm of the century, the 1993 storm, which produced 10 to 20 inches worth of snow here locally, did not have the wind component that the blizzard of 78 did. So while the snow amounts were higher, the drifts were not nearly as dramatic. All right, we've had some legit cold over the last few days, and finally we saw a spike in the ice coverage on the Great Lakes. Now, it's still way below average, but over the weekend and early this week, we have seen a fairly dramatic uptick in the ice coverage. It went basically from 0 on Lake Erie to 5 or 10%, and even though that probably did come down some today with the relatively mild air, we're going to stay below freezing here locally and up on the lake as well over the next handful of days, so ice coverage will generally increase as we go through late January. All right, today started, again, as expected, a little glaze of ice on some colder surfaces, including our camera here along the traffic circle in Columbiana, but then pretty quickly we got above the magic 32-degree mark, and a lot of clouds were around, low ceilings today, visibility under a few miles, just a murky day. Light rain and drizzle was pretty common into this afternoon. This general trend does continue this evening. We don't have a whole lot on the radar, but you're going to be flipping on the wipers this evening with some mist and some drizzle. Temperatures are safely above freezing for now, but that'll change later on this evening. Radar is going to look like this all evening. You're not going to see a whole lot as you pull up the radar on your Storm Tracker 21 app, but some light precipitation is going to try to fall out of these low-hanging clouds. We've been above freezing, but that, again, is going to change. Detroit's down to 31, Lansing's down to 26. Now, the threat for freezing rain tonight is not as high as maybe it looked 24 hours ago, but this drizzle this evening will last a few hours at least, and then as we drop down below freezing, standing water, little damp areas can get a little glaze on them. It'll be colder tonight than it was last night. We'll end up in mid-20s by the end of the night tonight. I want to talk quickly about some national weather stories. You probably have seen at this point the footage from the Birmingham, Alabama area. A very strong nocturnal tornado occurred last evening around 11 o'clock local time. moved through. This is the radar from last evening. I have not seen the National Weather Service results of any surveys, I should say, from this just yet. I don't think they've officially surveyed it, but judging by the videos and pictures, not going to be surprised if this was an EF3 or maybe even an EF4 tornado in the middle of the night in January. Not unheard of, certainly, especially down in this part of the country, but not something you want to see. That is for sure. There was a warning on that storm. There was a tornado warning, so this was not an unwarned situation, but yeah, not something that you want to see at any time of the year, but in January at 11 o'clock at night when people's guards are not up like they are in April in Alabama. So that unfortunately probably added to the injuries and potential fatalities from that tornado down in Alabama. In the west, it is quite cold and very, very snowy. This system is going to do a number on the west coast and the Intermountain West over the next handful of days. Yesterday, Phoenix stayed in the 30s. The coldest afternoon on record in Phoenix yesterday. Today they've snuck up into the 50s, but up in the higher terrain, Flagstaff, Arizona, 21. Albuquerque, New Mexico is 35. Even LA, 53, is pretty cold by LA standards. And up in the mountains, the snow will continue to be measured with yardsticks over the next several days. So no surprise, winter storm warnings are out for a lot of the mountainous areas, winter weather advisories in some of the Four Corners region as well. Back here at home, again, some drizzle. Might see a couple of snowflakes, a little snizzle, if you will, this evening. That will tend to fade away overnight, but the clouds will be around as Wednesday gets underway. I'm not going to be totally shocked if you see a stray snowflake or two early Wednesday, but otherwise pretty unproductive clouds later tonight. And heading into our Wednesday morning, Wednesday is just going to be a cloudy day all day. A system misses us to the south then Wednesday night into Thursday. This will produce a quick hit of snow in maybe Charleston and the central Appalachians, southern Appalachians. But around here, no big deal. Flow comes in off the lakes with an Arctic air mass slipping in Thursday and Friday. And therefore, I think we will see some flurries, probably nothing of any consequence, but it's going to be awfully cold at the end of this week and at the start of the weekend as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about early next week. I've gotten some questions about this system from people who are seeing maybe some things on the Weather Channel, or maybe they're bringing up their forecast on some other app other than ours that is showing, accumulating snow and things like that Sunday into Monday. As you would expect, today being only Tuesday, a lot of question marks. There's going to be a system that brings us some sort of weather, mostly, I think, late Sunday into Sunday night into Monday. This is the European model. It's the most recent run. It's just one run of one model. It's not the answer key, but I'm going to show it just to graphically kind of depict what the possibilities are. This would suggest that we're actually dry for a lot of Sunday, and this would suggest that the highest chances of impactful snow, if taken literally, would probably be the I-70 corridor, and then this would include maybe the nation's capital as well. Around here, while there would be impacts and probably some accumulations into the day Monday, it wouldn't put us in the sweet spot necessarily for heavy snow. But this thing has the potential to become quite a doozy of a storm for the East Coast. If this ends up being anything close to right, with low pressure there and strengthening, I mean, New York, Philly, Baltimore, D.C., this could be a real doozy. But again, don't take that to the bank. A lot of questions with this. What we know at this point, yeah, there's probably going to be some snow and maybe some mixed precipitation around here. Sundays, at some point Sunday, probably later in the day, and into Sunday night, and into Monday. Stay tuned. All right, it is going to turn legit cold at the end of this week. 9-10 degrees colder than average Thursday and Friday. Still a handful of degrees colder than average Saturday. We probably don't sneak above freezing again until hopefully Sunday afternoon. And while next week will start seasonably cold, I think the end of the week will be warmer. I think we've got a good shot at some 40s at the end of next week. Now, if you've been following my long-range thoughts in the last week or 10 days, I've been talking about how early February looks pretty good for some warmth. That pattern looks to break down, looks like a little sooner than we'd like, I think. While it's still likely that we're going to see some mild air at the end of next week, it may only be 3 or 4 days, may not be a week or 10 days. Because the models are starting to come into better agreement that some colder air will start to make inroads beyond this 10-day period and in that kind of 10 to 15-day period across our area. All right, 10-minute Weather for Weather Geeks video tonight. Lots to talk about. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks as always for watching these videos, and I'll see you back here on Wednesday.